Now we're going to move over to the Nick 10 and a school that a lot of people are keeping an eye on this year.
Mm-hmm.
And a coach that's been there for a few years now, our friend over at Freeport, Aaron Wichman. Hey, Coach, how you doing today?
I'm okay, guys. How are you?
Great. You know, several years ago when we first had you on the show, I think you were moving into your house when we talked to you one time. We were doing our pigskin preview. That seems like a long time ago, and now you pretty well settled in over at Freeport, haven't you?
Yeah, actually, the comfort level is pretty good, and that time has moved really quickly. I do know that.
Well, you know, I know the big thing when we look at this year is you got to replace a great player in Steve McShane. So how do you go about trying to replace somebody like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think we would have one single person try and do what Steve did. It's just, he was a special player, and you don't get guys like that very often. But we do think that we have quite a few skill kids this year that maybe weren't the level of Steve, but are going to be pretty good Nick 10 football players. And so we'll probably spread the ball around a little bit more this year.
You know, we did a recorded version of Tim Shagro from Hononegah. That's who you guys open up with. And he says, man, that Freeport team, they seem like they get a McShane every year. You got some more McShanes this year, Coach?
Yeah, we do, actually. Steve's younger brother, Vance, will be a senior. He'd be a 3-year starter for us. He's a running back also, and very similar to Steve. Maybe not quite as fast and maybe not quite as strong, but he's a legitimate weapon for us. And then Dion is a sophomore this year, and people know his name because of all the success he had during the track and field season. So we have 2 this year.
You know, what about the quarterback position? Obviously, when you're replacing a big-time running back like that, you know, one thing you'll want is stability at quarterback. What have you got going on there this year?
This summer, we had a great summer, and we had 2 guys that took reps about 50% of the time. One would be Dimitri Offord, who finished the season there for us last year, and we really like what Dimitri did in the summer. He's stronger. He's about 6'3", close to 200 pounds, and he ran a 4.5 for us at the end of the summer. So we're really excited about what he can do. And then our junior quarterback, Ben Swords, played 2 years. He started as a freshman and then again as a sophomore. So he's got 2 years of starting at the lower level, and we're excited about him too.
When you look at that opening game, you're going to be playing a Hononegah team. Got any surprises for him in that first game, Coach?
No, not necessarily. I know that it gets our kids' attention. You know, that helps us because they know for us to play some of those bigger teams like that, we have to be close to perfect. And so that will help going into August. It's helped in the summer a little bit too. And, you know, for us, we'll see right away where we stand against some of the better teams in the Nick 10.
You know, the last few years, you guys have been, you know, really competitive, lost a couple heartbreaking games that might have been the difference, you know, between qualifying for the playoffs and not. You know, what do you guys got to try to do this year to maybe kind of break over that hump?
Well, I think what helps us this year, the last 2 years we had senior classes that were pretty small in numbers. And this senior class, that, you know, it's smaller too, but we have a junior class that's close to 30. And we're looking at a varsity roster right around 40. And for us, that's a luxury. That's something that we haven't had for a few years, which gives us a chance to play guys, maybe not have to 2 platoon so many guys. And for us, I think that's what we've noticed in the Nick 10 is that we are competitive, and we just kind of wear out a little bit, and that's something this year that we hope doesn't happen.
You know, Coach, I follow you guys, a couple of your accounts on Twitter and stuff, and I've seen that there's a very positive vibe out there. You guys are really pushing the kids to be a team, be a family, and get together and do things. That seems to be working for you guys.
It is. This is this will be my 5th year already, and
wow.
That's the best summer that we've had. And Coach Blackburn, one of the coaches on the staff, I think he's going into year 8 or 9, and he says the same thing. It's the best summer that he's been a part of as well. So we do have a closer group of kids. I think, you know, when you have a guy like Steve, in the past, sometimes people just expect him to take over and do his thing. And We don't have that this year, so guys see their opportunity to contribute and make an impression and leave an impression, and I think that's helped us.
I was going to say, who are some of the kids you've seen so far that maybe are stepping up and trying to grab that opportunity?
Well, Vance McShane is one. Dimitri Offord is another. We have a few linemen that will be 3-year starters for us. Travis Buckwalter had a real good summer. He's getting some looks by some of the Missouri Valley teams. Western again, and Illinois State, Eastern Illinois, Northern Iowa. So he'll be a leader for us. Vaughn Truckenmiller is another one that will be a 3-year starter for us. At linebacker, Zeke Vandenberg, another lineman for us. He started last year as a sophomore, another linebacker also. And then Caleb Sellers has actually started since he was a freshman, and he'll be a junior this year. So we got some guys that have some returning experience to go along with that junior class.
You know, you talk about the offensive line returning with some experience. Do they maybe have a bit of a chip on their shoulder to maybe want to come out and prove that it, you know, Steve had some help maybe in some of his success there?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think especially with Travis, you know, he's going into his 3rd year now, so he's definitely been through the battles. He knows what to expect. And for a lot of our guys, it's just gaining that experience. And with Vaughn there and with Zeke as well, you know, those are 3 guys that we're comfortable with. We have some junior guys that are coming along that we think eventually will be pretty good, and they're going to get tested right away. But there's really no better way to see how you can perform than to perform against some of the best.
And I got a chance to see a lot of those kids play basketball this year, and they had a real successful season. That kind of follows over into the football season, doesn't it, as well? Because they went out and they played like they could win, and they didn't play about worrying about who they were playing during the basketball season.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's all part of a school culture, to be honest with you. You know, I think that some of those guys that were basketball players gained some confidence that they could go out and play, and I do see it carried over into the track season with some of those guys. And we're hoping that it just carries over into the football season as well. It's something that Coach Pierce and I have talked quite a bit about, and just trying to change the culture that these guys, it doesn't matter necessarily who you play, that if you do what you're asked to do and to the best of your ability, you're going to be competitive.
You know, do you guys use the situation too? You know, we saw Belvedere North last year, who had built a couple of years by playing some younger guys, and it all just kind of came together last year for them. Do you guys use that as some motivation to say, hey, look, they're a smaller school like we are. They built this thing up. You know that, you know, hey, if we do this right, this can all come together for us too.
Yeah, I think our guys see that. I think what I've noticed the most is that the opponent doesn't really matter to us as much as it did maybe my first or second year. When we saw Boylan or Hononegah or Harlem on the schedule, some of my first few years, we knew that it was a mental task as much as it was going to be a physical task. And I think mentally we're just much stronger than we were originally. And I think that, you know, we got some good athletes, and we do know that our numbers aren't going to be what some of the other teams are, but we think that we have some guys that can play, and I think mentally we're much further along.
And, Coach, before we let you go, the Nick 10 wide open this year. Is there somebody you're keeping an eye on, or is it going to be one of those nights where you got to play a good game every night, and every team has to have that thought, not just where we're going to have a 60-game winning streak started here?
Yeah, well, for us, we start with Hononegah, and then week 2 is Harlem. So, you know, those are the 2 big schools in the conference, enrollment-wise, and 2 schools that we've struggled against. We were fortunate enough to beat Hononegah. I think it was my first year, and play them close. And then Harlem, the last few games, the last 2 years, actually, we've been getting closer and getting closer. So we're really excited to start. I'd rather play those schools at the beginning of the year than at the end of the year when everything's fresh and everybody comes out not really having any experience under their belt. And so for us, we realize it is a wide-open Nick 10, but we're really focused on those first few weeks of the season and trying to get off to a good start.
Well, thanks, Coach, for taking time today. We appreciate it, and love to see the Freeport Pretzels. They always do a good job over there. Have a great season, too, Coach.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
We've been talking to Aaron Wichman, the head football coach at Freeport. You can see the change in culture over there as well. And, those basketball kids like Dimitri, I don't know how he's going to get a helmet on. Have you ever seen he's got a set of hair? And Buckwalter, if you ever watched him play basketball, he's very skilled, too. He's just not a big guy. He can move around pretty good.
Yeah, you see him and you think he's just going to be a football player out there, but he's got good footwork and things like that. But you got to have that to play offensive line, too.
Yeah, you do.
You got to have that footwork, and if he's getting looks, like that, he's definitely got that going for him.
We will continue with more of our pigskin preview. We'll be going back to Wisconsin again. We'll talk to the new head coach at Beloit Turner, Derek Deal, and we'll talk about how they're looking for this season. 2 hours of the pigskin preview here on the State Line Sports Hour, and we hope that you will continue. Been good so far,
Yeah, it's been great so far.
Don't you get excited when you talk about football now?
Well, you get off of that interview like that, I'm like, boy, Freeport just might do some things this year. Every coach is excited this time of the year. You got to love it.
Yeah, and Aaron Wichman, he has really put a lot of effort into this, so it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
So you're listening to the State Line Sports Hour right here on News Talk 1440 WROK.